Yes, and you're waking up with Damo here on 4WK. It is nice to have your company on this Tuesday morning. It is time for us to get a little history into our day, and we do that with History Out There. And, of course, Harold Peacock, who joins us on the line this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Damo. How are you today?
I am very good. How was your jaunt around the state?
Oh, look, it's always busy looking for more history stories, and it's never ending. It goes on and on.
That's true. Now, this one is kind of interesting because if you're a lover of history or a lover of animals, you're going to be very happy this morning.
Yeah, that's right. I've been researching camels, and I'll tell you about the importance through history of camels in Toowoomba, Stanthorpe, Gundawindi and beyond.
Fair enough.
Yeah, look, the contributions of camels to Australia have been immense, from the early explorers we all know to carrying supplies to remote communities to simply keeping people alive. And even now, they are still used in scientific research expeditions when nothing else can go. Because, look, I've even trekked through the Simpson Desert on scientific and ecological surveys myself. But today, I'll tell you just a little bit about camels in southwest Queensland. Now, from the 1860s, around 20,000 camels and their handlers from Afghanistan, Pakistan and elsewhere were brought to Australia. That's because camels were ideal for carrying goods across long distances in our harsh environments. Now, one of the most famous cameleers was Gunny Khan. He came from Afghanistan and claimed to be one of the only 3 Afghans in Australia, saying the others were from hill tribes in India. He spoke fluent English, and so was used as an interpreter in the courts. This earned him the ill will of some so-called Afghans, and there were even a number of attempts made on his life. But for others, they gave him the greatest respect and was often asked to arbitrate on tribal disputes. Now, Gunny was the owner of a camel train, and in 1890 he applied to join the Carriers Union. But he was rejected because he was an Afghan.
Oh.
Yeah, so he said a few things that upset the union leadership. And as a result, the unions organised a boycott against Gunny's camels. Parliament was even petitioned to either have the camels destroyed or taken out of the country altogether. In 1891, Colonel George French, he was the commander of the Queensland Defence Force, was sent west to protect Gunny and his camels. Now, Colonel French took with him men from the field artillery, the mounted rifles, and the volunteer rifles. They escorted a camel train from the border to Cunnamulla. You see, it was needed to bring food that saved the lives of locals there who were isolated due to flood. Nothing but camels could get through. The infantry then accompanied the camel drivers safely back down south to the border. That's how important the camels were to Western Queensland. In 1915, however, camels were still seen as a novelty. A parade in Stanthorpe was a success in every way, thanks to a fully grown camel being included in the procession. In 1925, it surprised many in Toowoomba to know that at Quilpie, which was at the end of the Great Western Railway line, that camels were still being used to carry loads of general merchandise and fruit consigned from Toowoomba to parts that hadn't yet been reached by a horse or even dray or truck. Traders regularly came to Toowoomba to purchase fruit and other things that were destined to be carried by camels. Now, unfortunately, those same Quilpie traders relied on camels for survival even more the following year in 1926, because that's when virtually the whole of Quilpie was burnt down and had to be rebuilt. Now, in 1947, it was reported from Gundawindi that camels were used to take a critically injured man across 140 kilometres of rain-sodden country to Cunnamulla Hospital. The man was Colin Harvey, a boundary rider at Thurlgoona Station, which was almost on the border fence. He'd badly broken his leg and when his horse fell on him. Now, there was no way getting Harvey to hospital because the water-logged roads just stopped anything getting through horses, and motor vehicles were useless. Harvey's life was in the balance, so the station's camel team was called upon and came to the rescue. Now, unfortunately, in my research, Harvey then disappeared from history, but that wasn't unusual for boundary riders. You see, it wasn't long after that a boundary rider was found mysteriously murdered, and police cleared that mystery up when they said he died from poisoning and not the bullet wound in the back of the head, as was first thought.
Well, that would be a dead giveaway, wouldn't it?
That's right. But anyway, look, the Western Downs Beyond was a tough country of boundary riders and everyone else who tried to make a living. But the Camels always managed to get through and definitely helped build the lifestyle that we enjoy today.
Well, there you go. It's amazing when you think about it. I mean, it's like, the service dogs in our military and our police force, how much of an impact they have on the day-to-day lives of their handlers.
Oh, absolutely. And they perform a job that no one else can do.
Yeah.
So the animals are so important to everything we do, whether we know it or not. Even just as comfort animals, as friends, they're so important. But camels absolutely save lives. In fact, I was at Summerland Camels at Harrisville in the Scenic Rim on the weekend, and the camel milk there, look, the camel milk chai latte, Damo, is to die for.
Now, was that the picture that we've got on our Facebook page of you snuggling up to a couple of camels?
Yeah, that's it. I am close to some camels, but their camel milk, with chai latte, fantastic.
Well, fair enough. All right. Have you ever ridden a camel?
Well, that's what I did on the weekend. I went to a nice sunrise trail ride.
Oh.
It was fantastic. And, of course, I've trekked out the Simpson Desert walking with camels for a few hundred K.
Well, yeah.
So you can do so much with them. They're magical animals.
You certainly can. I got on one, and then I had a camel interpreter, and the camel said, "Get off me, you're too heavy."
Oh, geez, I hate it when that happens. But, you got to pick your camel wisely, don't you? Just like you got to pick your friends.
That's exactly right. Harold, always good to catch up with you, mate, and we'll do it again next week.
Looking forward to it.
And, of course, if you'd like to read about that story and many others, you can jump on to historyouthere.com. Harold puts those stories up there so you can have a read back on them and read some of the other fascinating history that he uncovers across the Darling Downs and Granite Belt. Historyouthere.com is where you can go to get your fix of local history.